All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim. Today's date is February 9th, 2023. I want to welcome all my new subscribers and older alike. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and select all. That way you'll be notified every time I upload a new presentation. I want to thank you all for your continued support. Please continue to like the videos, comment, share them, because it all helps in the viewership. As we keep it moving and the channel continues to build. Now, what I want to bring forth with this lesson today, I don't know why it's been kind of weighing on my mind, but I'm pretty sure we all know from Christians to Israelites, we know about the story of Samson, right? He's probably one of the most famous characters spoken about in the Bible because he was known for his really superhuman type strength and power, his power and his strength and stuff like that. And then it was all tied to the fact that he couldn't cut his hair. Well, Samson, the story of Samson is a lot more intriguing because clearly, number one, he was favored, right, by God because he was called to be a quote unquote judge of Israel. As a matter of fact, Samson was like the last judge of Israel. But what's not really talked about is that Samson is from the tribe of Dan. Right, yeah. Samson's from the tribe of Dan, the red-headed stepkids of the 12 tribes, right? The same tribe that's not mentioned in Revelation as the 144,000. Well, Samson, like many other men of God, he wasn't by himself, but he fell from grace because he did things he wasn't supposed to do. He disobeyed God. I mean, he clearly went against our dietary law in terms of touching the carcass of a dead animal because he took some honey or something from a lion, the carcass of a dead lion or something. So he touched an unclean animal. Um, and he basically walked into a trap with Delilah, who infamously cut his hair when he was asleep, and he shouldn't have been with her. And had he not been, disobedient, he wouldn't have even been with her because she was a Philistine woman, and allegedly, depending on where you read, she was a prostitute. On top of that, so she was outside. She was not an Israelite. So he messed up with that. He got himself mixed up with the wrong woman. See, and it goes back to what I say in terms of the Most High giving the children of Israel laws, statutes, and commandments because he knows what we know not, right? He is omnipotent, right? I'm sure he has his reasons why he tells us and why he told us what he told us in his laws, statutes, and commandments given to our ancestors. And if you go against that, well, yeah, you walking into basically setting a trap for yourself, right? Because he had no business with that woman. She was a Philistine. Matter of fact, ironically, uh, what's his name? Oh gosh, Hadrian changed the name of Judea to Palestine as a play on Philistine, who was like one of our arch enemies, right? He did that on purpose to disrespect uh, the children of Israel, disrespect Judea, right? He changed it to Palestine. Palestine has the name Philistine incorporated into it because they were like one of our arch enemies out of all our captivities and this and that. We used to go at it with the Philistines, and she was a Philistine woman. Samson had no business with her, right? He didn't. And so, what I want to really kind of get into is we're going to get into Samson. Man, his story is unique in that when it was all said and done, his last act of great strength, right? We all know about him with the pillars, and he killed a bunch of Philistines by doing that, and in doing so, he also killed himself, right? So the thing that kind of got me thinking is, what Samson did, that act, is that considered, suicide, right? Um, because that wasn't, you could say, well, it wasn't his intent to kill himself, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that's what ultimately happened. He killed himself as well. So we're going to kind of talk about that. And I say his death uh, was uncertain, or he died in uncertainty, because that is a matter of debate, man. Did Samson Was it a sacrifice? Did he sacrifice himself? That can, I mean, obviously we can't, say what how God views it. But I mean, if you think about it, it's something to really talk about, right? Um, do you consider what he did a sacrifice, or at the end of the day, technically, it's still, considered a suicide because he died in the process of bringing the pillars down, in the process of killing the Palestinians. I'm to the Philistines. I'm sorry, right? So let's get into it, man. Let's talk about Samson and how, and it's never. I don't think I ever heard anyone or read anywhere that he was from the tribe of Dan, right? I mean, so that in itself is intriguing to me. But anyway, let's get into the story of Samson, man, and let's kind of talk about it a little bit and see what we can come up with. Okay, Samson was the last of the judges of the ancient Israelites mentioned in the book of Judges, chapters 13 to 16, and one of the last leaders who, quote unquote, judged Israel before the institution of the monarchy. He is sometimes considered as an Israelite version of the popular Near Eastern folk hero, also embodied by the Sumerian Gilgamesh in Enkidu and the Greek Hercules. The biblical account states that Samson was a Nazarite, okay, and that he was given immense strength to aid him against the enemies and allow him to perform superhuman feats, including slaying a lion with his bare hands and massacring an entire army of Philistines using only the jawbone of a donkey. However, if Samson's long hair were cut, then his Nazarite vow would be violated and he would lose his strength. Now, real quick sidebar. Sidebars when I want to kind of get off, not off topic, but I want to kind of question this real quick, because it's debated whether Jesus was a Nazarite. Well, I know he was referred to as Jesus from Nazareth, um, but was he? It's actually debated whether Jesus was an actual Nazarite, meaning did he was he did he? We know that he didn't touch anything unclean, stuff like that, so we know that he was sinless, but did he ever cut his hair? Which I don't. There's nothing stating that he did. And I don't see why or how he wouldn't be a Nazarite. Um, given who he was, and just just something to think about. Y'all can talk. Y'all can tell me what y'all think in the comments. But I always wondered if Jesus was a Nazarite. I personally feel and think that he was, even though some people don't seem to share that opinion. But y'all tell me what y'all think as far as that. Okay. All right. Back on Samson. Samson is betrayed by his lover slash wife Delilah, who she was a Philistine, and she was, basically. I mean, he knew he shouldn't have been with her. I mean, it's like he set himself up. That was a huge no. He was with somebody that God told him he shouldn't even be with. Number one. So the Philistines kind of put a battery in her back to set him up to find out, how is it that he has this strength, and what's the source of it, and et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, he's betrayed by her, and they ordered us, and let's see here, sent by the Philistines officials to entice him, orders a servant to cut his hair while he is sleeping, and turns him over to his Philistine enemies, who gouge his eyes out. They literally gouged his eyes out and forced him to grind grain in a mill at Gaza. While there, his hair begins to grow again. When the Philistines take Samson to the temple of Dagon, Samson asks to rest against one of the support pillars. After being granted permission, he prays to God and miraculously recovers his strength, allowing him to bring down the columns, collapsing the temple, and killing himself, as well as all of the Philistines. Now, in some traditions, Samson is believed to have been buried in Zorah in Israel, overlooking Sorek Valley. Samson has been the subject of rabbinic, Christian, and Islamic commentary, with some Christians viewing him as a type of Jesus, even based on similarities between their lives. Notable depictions of Samson include John Milton's closet drama, Samson Agonistus, and Cecil B. DeMille's 1949 Hollywood film, Samson and Delilah. Now, according to the account in the book of Judges, Samson lived during a time of repeated conflict between Israel and the Philistines. And when God was disciplining the Israelites by giving them into the hand of the Philistines, Manoah was an Israelite from Zorah, descended from the tribe of Dan, and his wife had been unable to conceive. The angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife and proclaims him that the couple would soon have a son who would begin to deliver the Israelites from the Philistines. The angel of the Lord states that Manoah's wife was to abstain from alcoholic beverages, unclean foods, and her promised child, which was Samson, was not to shave or cut his hair. He was to be a Nazarite from birth. In ancient Israel, those wanting to be especially dedicated to God for a time could take a Nazarite vow, which included abstaining from wine and spirits, not cutting their hair or shaving, and other requirements. Manoah's wife believes the angel of the Lord. Her husband was not present, so he prays and asks God to send the messenger once again to teach them how to raise the boy who was going to be born. After the angel of the Lord returns, Manoah asks him his name, but he says, "Why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding." Manoah then prepares a sacrifice, but the angel of the Lord says, "No. We're not allowed that to be." He touches it with his staff, miraculously engulfing it in flames, and then ascends into the sky in the fire. This is such dramatic evidence of the nature of the messenger that Manoah fears for his life, since it was said that no one could live after seeing God. However, his wife convinces him that if God planned to slay them, he would not have revealed such things to them. In due time, their son Samson is born, and he is raised according to the angel's instructions. Now, let's fast forward a bit. Clearly, with that type of good news coming from the Most High, sending his angels, clearly Samson is favored. What does the Bible tell us? For many are called, few are chosen. Well, clearly Samson was chosen. But where he fell at is where number one, like I said, he disobeyed God in many ways, right? He fell for Delilah, who was a Philistine prostitute, one of the biggest enemies of Israel, right? He took honey from the carcass of a dead lion. He flagrantly disobeyed the rules of cleanliness, which prohibited contact with dead things. But to be fair, his parents was not feeling him marrying Delilah, the Philistine woman, or whatever, right? So now let's look at it from the standpoint that here he was clearly favored by God from the tribe of Dan, and he still don't do what he's supposed to do, but God still showed him favor. See, this is how and why God's grace and mercy is just so important. Because here Samson disobeyed every God in every way you could think of, except he didn't worship idols, or he didn't fall to idolatry, at least, right? So we can say that about him. But he was disobedient. He was stiff necked, and so when the Philistines gouged his eyes out, Samson wanted revenge, and so he prayed to God, and it appeared that God answered his prayer, because with the whole pillar situation, Samson, the pillars came down and he killed the Philistines. So basically, he got his get back, but in the process, he killed himself. So now the second part to this lesson, I want y'all tell me what y'all think. Do y'all consider that suicide, or do y'all consider that self-sacrifice? Right now, there's no right or wrong answer now, but just talk about it. This is a good discussion, because I find it really intriguing. I mean, Samson is known for all the hair and the strength, but if you look beneath the surface with the story of Samson, his story is a lot more intriguing, right? Especially coming from the tribe of Dan, the so-called red-headed stepchildren of the tribes, who was enlisted in the 144,000, right? So it does appear that Samson was he prayed and God answered his prayer in terms of giving him that strength so he could, bring the pillars down and basically kill his enemies with what they did to him. You know, and I guess a kind of second part to that is that the Bible tells us God says that vengeance is mine, right? I will repay. But it appears in this instance he granted because of his grace and mercy Samson the ability to exact revenge on the Philistines for what they did to him. So the question is, what Samson did, do you consider that suicide? I know we can't answer for what God, how God sees it, but just based on the information that you have and based on your knowledge, or was that self-sacrifice? And if it was suicide, I mean, that's another commandment that Samson broke: "Thou shalt not kill." And don't try to play games and say, well, you didn't say, thou shalt not kill thyself. You know what I'm saying? But, some I've actually read that, people trying to be funny. Well, they didn't say thou shalt not kill thyself. I mean, no, there's no explicit language in the Bible that says, it speaks really against suicide like that. Explicit language, like thou shalt not kill thyself or something like that. But if you look at it, thou shalt not kill. I mean, period. Anything, anyone, yourself is included in that. I mean, I don't play no games with God's the statutes and his commandments. So, but y'all tell me what y'all think, man. The story of Samson, the fact that did y'all even realize he was from the tribe of Dan, and what do you think about his uncertain death? Or how do y'all view that? And let's talk about it in the comment section. Like I said, let's just be respectful. There's no right or wrong answer, and yeah, let's see what it do. So until next time, let's talk to you from signing off, saying Shalom, elect.